Hey, this is workout one. This video has been designed so you guys can follow along in real time. So just to start, standing nice and tall, stretching the arms out nice and wide for rope drill. We're turning the arms in opposite directions and really turning into that end position. Alternating sides for 10 reps or 5 each side. Just gently turning into that end position and holding for a moment before going to the other side. We really want to keep turning into that end position. The goal here is to try and activate some of those little stabilizing muscles around the shoulder joint. Just alternating sides there, nice and gently. Nice work. From here, we're going into an overhead reach. So again, the arms are starting out nice and wide. We're bringing one arm over and one arm under, trying to meet them behind the back of the head. And we're just alternating sides here again. So staying nice and tall, keeping that core nice and braced so we're not arching through our lower back. As we reach overhead, we're just nice and gently taking our shoulders through their range of movement. Nice. You might find that one side is a little bit tighter than the other side. That's absolutely normal. If you're quite restricted through your shoulders, you won't be able to get as close to the hands, but each time we go through this, you should find that you're getting a little bit more range of movement each time. Nice. From here, we're going to move on to a lunge and reach. So our feet are starting shoulder width apart. Imagine they're on train tracks. You're going to step back, keeping those feet on train tracks, slowly lower down. The front knee's at about 90 degrees, the back knee's at about 90 degrees, with the back knee slightly elevated off the ground. From here, big double arm reach overhead, keeping the core nice and braced, and standing tall to repeat on the other side. So we're going 5 each side, or 10 in total. Again, make sure you're nice and balanced before going through the movement. Nice and tall, step back, nice and balanced, lower down, stay balanced, then a big reach overhead. Just nice and gently in your own time with a pause in that bottom position. Another thing you can try as well is keeping that core braced, pushing those hips forward. You might get a slight stretch through the front of that back leg. It's going to help us open up through the hips. Nice, last few reps here. That's it, and as you guys are reaching overhead as well, make sure that core stays nice and braced. So we don't want to arch the lower back as we reach overhead. We want to keep the core nice and braced as you reach overhead. Nice, guys. Final rep here. Big double arm reach overhead. And perfect. So we're going to go to a hip opener now. Feet are shoulder width apart, setting up for a lunge again. Big step back. This time both hands are coming down to the inside of that front leg. From here, we're actively pressing the knee out to the side, lifting the chest and trying to drop those hips down towards the ground. That's going to start initiating a stretch through the hips. From here, to increase the stretch, that hand that's closest to the front foot, we're going to gently drop that elbow towards the ground. If you're quite restricted through the hips, you get a really big stretch here. Just go with the mobility that you've got, as far as your mobility allows. If you're really bendy, you might be able to get all the way down and maybe even bring that other elbow down as well. So we're holding for 2 to 3 seconds before straightening the front leg out and sending the hips back into a hamstring stretch. Nice, again holding for 2 to 3 seconds. Staying on the same side, again dropping that elbow down as far as your mobility allows. You might find that you'll be able to get a little bit deeper than you did that first time. 2 to 3 seconds, and again straightening the front leg out as you send those hips back. Nice, we're going to go one more time. Again, just dropping the elbow down. Should be able to get further again. And moving into that nice hamstring stretch. For this hamstring stretch, you don't need to straighten the back leg out completely. With a bent knee, you'll still be able to have a hamstring stretch at the back of the thigh there. Nice, and we're going to step over to the other side. So we'll come up to a full standing position again, stepping back onto a lunge or into a lunge with that other leg. Bring both hands down to the inside of the front foot. We'll drive or actively press the knee out, lift the chest, and drop the hips down towards the ground. Again, that's going to initiate that stretch through our hips. From here, the hand that's closest to the front foot, we're dropping that elbow nice and gently as far as your mobility allows. Holding for 2 to 3 seconds, and then straightening the front leg out and sending those hips back. Nice, guys. So we've got 2 more reps here. Nice and gently, dropping the elbow. I'm already feeling that I've got a little bit more range on this side in the second rep. And again, straightening the front leg out, sending those hips back. Nice, we'll go once more. Dropping that elbow down nice and gently. 2 to 3 second hold. And then moving into that hamstring stretch. From here, we're going to go into a calf pump. I'll move side on so you guys can see. We're We're going into a tall plank position. From here, bring our hips up nice and high and driving our heels down towards the ground. We want to keep a bent knee to start with, but driving the heels towards the ground, and this should initiate a stretch through your calf muscles or the back of your leg, just above the ankle there. We're holding for 2 to 3 seconds before alternating or moving on to the other side. For this one, again, 10 reps or 5 each side with that 2 to 3 second hold, nice and gently. If you're doing a lot of walking, a lot of running, this is a really important one to keep up with, just to preserve the tissues of around the ankle and your calf. Nice. Another thing you can do is start walking those feet up a little bit closer to those hands. That's going to train to stretch slightly. Another thing you can try is bending the knee slightly. This will put a little bit more pressure around the ankle, but it's going to change to some of those deeper calf muscles. Just be really gentle if you're trying that bent knee variation. Otherwise, just stick to that straight knee, driving those heels towards the ground. So once you finish 10 reps, jumping up to your feet there. Our next piece goes for 3 minutes. You'll need a timer for this one. We're going from an inchworm into a shoulder tap into a squat. So the inchworm, standing nice and tall, we're hinging at the hip, keeping our legs as straight as possible. We should get a big stretch down the back of the legs here. From here, hands are nice and flat on the floor, staying really tall through the shoulders. We're walking out into a tall plank or a push-up position, lifting the arm off to touch the opposite shoulder, just once on each side, and keeping the legs as straight as possible and really tall through the shoulders as we walk back to that start position. Once we get back to the start position, we're going to add 2 squats in. So from here, feet are just wider than shoulder width. You're going to bend your knees slightly and then send your hips back, just as if you're about to sit down on a chair. From here, we're sitting down as far as your mobility allows, or as deep as you can go before your hips want to tuck underneath. If you're quite restricted or tight through your hips, you might notice that your heels are coming off the ground or your back wants to round under. Just go with the mobility that you have. So pull up just before that point. If you're really mobile through your hips, you might be able to sit all the way down to a bottom squat position. Just work with the mobility that you've got. So 2 reps there. And then back into an inchworm, really tall through the shoulders. Walking out. This time we're going to go to 4. So 2 each side to make 4 reps. Big focus when we do the shoulder tap is to not allow the hips and shoulders to rotate when you take an arm off. Really common fault is that people lift their arm and they won't switch their core on, the hips will start to rotate. You really want to stay tall through the shoulders and really tight through the core and the glutes to stabilize those hips. Cool, once you've finished, really tall through the shoulders, back into your squat stance and into those squats again. So the 3 minutes works like this. You're going to do an inchworm out, 2 shoulder taps, come back and do 2 squats. It's going to build each time. So you'll walk out again, 4 shoulder taps, 4 squats, 6, 6, 8, 8. Keep building until you reach that 3 minutes. By that time, you should be nice and warm, nice and mobile, and ready to start the session. Enjoy.